My name is Alex Adolph,
And I'm Brandon Cobb.
and this is the Land Development Accelerator.
All right. Well, man, it's a pleasure having you on these calls. So, y'all, this is Spook, and Spook, if you don't have your makeup on, you want to leave your camera off, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to show your pretty face,
Is the camera
Spook
not on?
no, it's not on.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, it's always something. What's the deal here?
so we're gonna have Spook talk about his experience selling his land to us. So y'all put in the community that y'all wanted to see a certain um a lot of different parties that are involved in the land transaction, and somebody put on there that they wanted to have one of our past sellers on to kind of get things from their point of view and their perspective. So I thought it would be fun to get Spook on. Now, the reason I want Spook terms Kenner on Spook, I don't know how old he is, but he looks and feels younger than me. The dude is in probably the best shape I've ever seen somebody in their 50s or 60s. Again, I don't even know how old you are because you look like you're freaking 40 and you're more ripped than I am. So was gonna show you off for a little bit, but he's got a really, really cool background. You know, he owns like a lot of land, and so I thought it would be kind of cool to have him on the podcast or him on the this isn't a podcast episode. Maybe we should start making these podcast episodes. But have him on, and I've got like a list of questions, and you know, Alex was the first one that interacted with him, so I'm gonna let Alex take this over and interview Spook today about that interaction, and then you know, let you guys ask some questions because I know y'all have got some questions.
While we're doing this, I'll try to get one of my wife to come back and get this. I don't know what the deal is. It looks like everything's working. I'm sure it's something simple.
Sure.
Did I hear you say one of your wives?
No, well, the only wife of 40 plus years, thank goodness.
Let's say I know Marty, and I don't think she's gonna put up with that.
Yeah, my daughter's here too visiting, so I thought I might have to get her help, but we're not very techy.
Oh, good stuff, man. Well, I'll let you and Alex take it from here.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody, everyone that's on. I know some people are kind of late to think, but we'll get started. Spook. Well, thank you. Thank you. I know it was kind of like last minute. I tried to reach out sooner, and you were like, "Yeah, I'll hop on the call." So really appreciate that. So you know, if you don't mind, everyone knows me. I don't want to do a lot of talking. Can you tell like everyone a little bit about you? Who are you? How did you get into land? And what are you doing now? And kind of, you know, what are your interests and how did you stumble upon this?
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in the lumber business with my dad, but my dad also, when I was really young, did land also. I mean, he did the first subdivision that I ever knew anybody doing around here in White Bluff, and that was at Beaver Dam, where you guys bought a couple of lots and built a couple houses. So I've been around it my whole life with Dad, looking for water meters and checking on houses and building roads and things like that. And then Daddy also bought farms and cleaned them up and resold them. So I got a taste of it when I was really young, and then when I got older and of course got married and had kids, and I was working at the lumber company, I really wanted to get into something to just try to advance financial situation. And so I started buying timber, and then land and timber, and then I bought that piece of property in White Bluff there at Greenfield Ridge, and the city sewer ran through the middle of the property. And one of my buddies like, man, you ought to build a subdivision there, because you got the city sewer. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I had a buddy who was an engineer. I had a buddy that laid pipe and built roads. And the city was pretty inexperienced. I think there was the mayor and 3 or 4 planning commission members. and none of us knew what we were doing, but we all, just flew in there and got it done. I had to do a lot of working on the city's existing sewer because they had a lot of issues. And, we just worked through it and I learned a lot. And that's kind of what got it all started.
Right. I mean, you did a great job. I mean, taking on something that big, that taking on something that big, and especially when you did, that's a big thing. So, and and there's a beautiful neighborhood that you've built. And you're right. It was like, and it's one of the, I think it is the biggest one in White Bluff, is it not?
I think right now it is. Of course, we're working now on expanding on White Bluff Hills. And once we get it finished, it will be the biggest one in White Bluff.
That's right.
But
That's right.
I think right now they're about the same with what's built on. But yeah, I mean, I look back and I'm kind of find myself in shock sometimes. I mean, I don't even know. I've never added it up, but I've probably done somewhere around total around 400 or 500 lots in White Bluff over the last 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been, and people thought I was crazy when I started, which I am crazy. I mean, I'm a go for it kind of, and it's just like, just gotta, but I just felt like with our proximity to Nashville and, I had a lot of friends that worked in Nashville. So it just made sense to me.
Right. Right. So I wanted to really quick just kind of dive into the deal that I bought from you. I mean, we bought some lots from you, like you just mentioned, in that Beaver Estates, a couple lots, and we built those, and we kind of stayed in touch.
Yep.
And then reached back out, and sometimes, we would talk and say, hey, you said, hey, I had a couple other lots. And then
Yep.
I bought those on Ruby Way, and we built those.
Mhm.
And then, it was kind of like a natural progression. You had a property, and like looking back, do you feel like you sold at the right time, or why not?
Well, it's more about to the right person because you guys had a vision and the reason I had some of these lots left over is because they were somewhat challenging lots. And as far as the way they were laid out. And what I liked about you guys so much is that you were willing to, okay, look at it, analyze it, let's see, and you just did what you had to do to make it work and make money on it. And so, the timing a lot of times just has to do with the person, the buyer. The timing is all about, a buyer that is willing to work through and you guys are young and energetic and gung ho, just like I was when I was your age. And it was like no mountain's too tall, and you just dive in there, and that's part of the military mentality coming out of you. But you just got to jump in there and figure it out. And that's what I like about you guys so much. So many people will just let a little hiccup here or there stand in the way of progress, and you just got to know how to work with people and don't let everybody else in society and planning commissions and whatever dictate what you're doing. You just got to get in there and fight for your right to party, baby.
That's right. That's right. So,
Yeah.
man, I had like three follow-up questions, and you kind of took all three of them. Um, you know, one of the things that I wanted to say, like, is our biggest thing is like, let's build rapport with sellers, like, and I had to kind of show you, like, we did a couple lots, and I had to kind of show you, like, hey, we're like the real thing, and you met me and kind of, and then what, uh, was it important for you to build that trust? And I know you mentioned it before, like, and how important is it for you to sell to someone that you like and trust compared to just random people? Like, how is that different in a
Yeah,
transaction for you?
it's really tough, and it's even harder now than it used to be. I mean, back pre 2008, which you guys were super young back then. I mean, really, man, we did deals on handshakes. We did like it was so easy. Somebody told you they was going to buy something, they bought it, and then after 2008, everything changed. I mean, you couldn't. People will tell you stuff they wouldn't follow through, wouldn't close, wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that. So it's and that's continued to be a problem with. I mean, I got down to 36 hours within 36 hours of a $6 million closing 2 months ago and found out that the finance company wasn't able to fund. And, 36 hours before closing, this is after surveys and appraisals and, LLCs. And I mean, these guys spent, probably $100,000 to get to this point and thought that, their financing was the least of their worries. And, and so, it, fell through. And so it's just like, you just don't ever know until, you sign on the dotted line and the check slides across the table.
Yeah. The real quick on Eagles Nest, those 36 townhome lots we ended up buying and developing from you.
Mhm.
What was your main motivation for selling that land? And did you ever consider developing it yourself?
Well, always the intention was always to develop it myself. And did that work? Because that's
Yeah, we can hear you.
yeah, but we were working on the camera. The camera's not working. No, it was open before. And so
There you go. We hear you
There
now.
he is.
here we go. Here we go. So unfortunately, that's a hard. It's an easy question to answer. It's a hard answer to give because my father passed away and he was my partner.
Hmm.
And things changed. I was dealing with the estate. And now my sisters were my partners. They needed the funds for, some things that they had going on. So the motivation there was to sell it and not have to wait and go through the development because my sisters didn't want to do
Yeah.
that. So it was kind of somewhat got, a little bit out of my control, and I'm soft hearted and I couldn't, I just had to do what I had to do just to help the situation.
And on that particular deal, when you've got multiple buyers all offering same terms, same price,
Mm-hmm.
where does your head go in order to make a decision on who to go with?
Well, so many times it comes down to, most of the time it comes down to timing on who can close the fastest and who's doesn't have a financing contingency.
Yeah.
If the person has the money to close, usually their closing time is shorter because they got the money or they have access to the money.
Mhm.
So those two kind of go hand in hand. Now, granted, obviously, when you like somebody and from the first time I met you guys and I heard Alex's story and being in the military, that automatically, and I could sense you guys' energy. You reminded me of myself when I was your age in a lot of ways, and just diving in like with helmets on and let's go. That's the way I roll. So I appreciated
Yeah.
that. I can't stand people who tire kick and beat around the bush and give excuses, and it drives me insane. So I don't have a lot of patience for all the BS that a lot of people try to give out. I'm tell me what you want to do. Let's figure it out. Let's do it. And that's
Right.
Yeah.
But let's say that all your buyers are offering the same terms,
Mm-hmm.
same confidence in the ability to close, same price, same time period. How then do you make a decision on who to move forward
Well,
with?
then it comes down to many times just relationships or who you like the best. That's,
Yeah.
Granted, if I've got a guy over here that I've known my whole life and he's a hometown guy and he's offering the same price and terms, more than likely I got to live with the guy. I got to see him at the bank or in the store or whatever. Probably going to go with him. If I don't know any of the people involved, then you're basically just basing it off of. But Brandon, you're never going to get two people that's got the same terms or ideas or closing times or situation.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen. It's like trying to choose between two girlfriends. One of them's going to have something better than the other. So.
Well, what's interesting that we've found, and I've seen this with Alex a lot of times because he's so good at building relationships and he's such a likable guy, is that we've won deals where we were not the highest and best,
Yeah.
but he had such a good relationship, or I had such a good relationship with the seller that they wanted to go with us anyway, because it wasn't always about money. It was about, some kind of leaving some kind of legacy on the project, naming a road after a family member, or just giving somebody a warm and fuzzy that it wasn't going to be commercialized. And when I say commercialized, there's a reason why people like to do deals with people who are, locally the small guy rather than the big guy. Like, I don't like to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I like to go to the local donut shop down the street and support them.
Yeah.
I don't like to go to the Starbucks. I like to go to the local, Pete's place, down the corner, just to give them my business. And so, the message that I want to communicate is it's not always about price necessarily, which a lot of people get hung up on that. What's been your experience there?
The same. So the same way with me and my dad. A lot of the deals that we have gotten over the years, and I mean, probably the biggest percentage of it was just based off of our character, honor, and relationship with the seller. And then if it was somebody we didn't know, I mean, very rarely, if you give me an hour with a person, if I'm in competition with somebody else and I can just talk to them for an hour, I'm generally going to get the deal. And it's
Yeah.
just because it's a person's sincerity and the confidence that you display and this being nice, listening to what the person has to say, and things like that. And I've had this happen where a person gets so confused because there's so many people coming at them, and I'm like, listen, just you've got a good product. Somebody's going to buy it. I'm not going anywhere. Just take a couple of weeks and think about it, and then make a decision. You don't have to do it today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And they really like that. They'll call me back in 2 weeks. It's like, man, you really helped me. I'm gonna go with you on this deal because you didn't put a lot of pressure on me. You told me to take some time and figure it out. Just simple things like that. But really, just I mean, and obviously for Alex being a military person, our country is in most people really respect military and people who have gone through the process and a part of it. And so they get an extra. I'm actually dealing with a couple of guys now that are military guys on another project. And, they get some perks and they deserve it. I'm not saying there's anything negative. They get some things that happen positive to them because of that, and they should.
Yeah.
And so I think that really helps.
One more, and then I kind of hijacked Alex's interview right here because I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah.
curious about these things. What are, because you've done
Sorry.
a lot of business. I know that you've done a lot of land transactions and with developers. What are some things that buyers have said or did that have really built a lot of trust and or differentiated themselves? And then I want to flip after you answer that. I want to do the opposite. What are some things they've done to turn you off?
And you talking about people buying from me?
Yeah. What are some things buyers have done in your transactions that have really, maybe some things they've said or done or things they've done to differentiate
I mean,
themselves, set
really,
them
it's just
apart? Or
being a matter of fact. I mean, it's just saying this is what we want to do. This is the timeline we want to do it in. We're willing to put it in writing and sign off on it, and we're ready to get going. I mean, it's really just showing confidence and not saying, well, if this happens or if that happens. I mean, the less ifs that are involved in the purchase process and the more things that are, defined, and there's the fewest amount of contingencies, and the more prepared the buyer is, and he knows he's got his lender or his money lined up. I mean, really, truthfully, that's what it all comes down to, is who can perform in the most efficient, fastest way. And I mean, that's really, I mean, you can be the nicest person in the world and the best smooth talker in the world, but if you can't close, or if it, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then on the flip side of that, you know, some things that turn you off are exactly the opposite. You have a lot of contingencies, you have a lot of ifs, ands, you're constantly blaming things on other people or others or situations or circumstances, and you know, keep delaying and things. I mean, granted, you know, if a person is not approaching you in a professional, articulate manner, and they don't seem to know what they're talking about in the beginning, obviously that's going to turn you off. And you know, if a person that's experienced and, you know, has a good business mind, they're going to ask the right questions. They're going to the conversation is going to go well, and you know, that's going to, you know, help the situation. So you know, those are some of the things that I would think about.
Well, I look, is we got anybody has any questions for Mr. Span? I mean, Spook has done a lot more land deals than I have done. I'll tell you that much. So he's probably been doing it since I was a twinkle in my daddy's eye. So,
So it's not Mr. Span, it's just Spook. So.
Spook, I got you. Spook. So, does anyone have any questions? Open it up. No one. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Mr. Spook. My name is William. I was just curious, and your years of
my
doing.
real name also, William.
Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
yes, sir. I was gonna say, in your years of doing land development, what would you say has been the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome on a project?
Well, normally it's dealing with planning commissions. I mean, Alex and I just had this conversation 2 hours ago. You know, it's just dealing with planning commissions, and a lot of times it's dealing with, you know, figuring out the financing, how you're going to get financed, what, you know, who you're going to deal with, how you're going to get that pulled off. But so those are the things, because unfortunately, a lot of these planning commissions and city councils have people on them, and you know, they could be really nice people. So many times they are, but they've never done any developing. They've never done any building. They've never really done anything. And I don't mean that negatively or, you know, in a mean manner, but if you've never done anything and you've never been a part of anything, then how do you expect to make decisions for your community and your city when you don't know what's going on? You don't know the logistics of, and then you know, so it's just, that's one of if not the biggest challenge, is just having to deal with the different city councils and planning commissions and the different personalities.
Okay. Yes, sir. I've seen that.
Now, William, I will say this: having a really good engineer who has somebody that can go before the planning commissions on your behalf and who's very knowledgeable and articulate and smooth in dealing with these kind of situations can be extremely helpful, because it's not always in our wheelhouse to go in there and explain all these things. And you know, they can generally, if they've got experience, can give examples of like, yeah, this is the way the rule's written and this is the reason why, but it doesn't mean that it has to be this way every time. There's got to be exceptions, because every piece of property is just like every person. It's all different. And you can't set up a straight line set of rules for every property, because they're all different. And you've got to be able to allow some variances here and there to allow, you know, what's desired, assuming that you know, it's something everybody wants to happen. And that's part of the problem. These people get tunnel vision and they think that you know, okay, well, this is what it says here on this piece of paper. This is the way it's got to be. And having a good engineer who can help you maneuver through that can be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
And
That's a good question.
yeah, that was a great question. Spook, if what well, let's just, I mean, there's people here that are, I mean, Will's doing deals, Greg, I mean, a lot of our guys here are doing deals. So what do you have right now? What are you working on? What are you excited about? Um, what's
So
going on in Spook
so
life?
yeah, so I started a subdivision years ago and called White Bluff Hills. It's a really big piece of property. I think I started out with like 400 acres. I developed the first two or three phases. I think currently we've got about 120, 125 houses in there. And I've got about, approximately 200, 220 lots left to develop. So we think it's good timing. We think interest rates are about to come down. And I think now is a good time. And of course, being this close to Nashville, we all know how hot the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area is. Uh, I wouldn't be afraid to try it most any time, but I think now is a great time to work on that.
I'd be curious to know, you mentioned like the rules changed a lot since '08.
Mm-hmm.
Hugs and handshakes don't work anymore. If you were selling another one of your properties today, what would you do differently? And, what would make you want to choose to work with a buyer, knowing that, if it's not already approved, right? Like they're needing to go under contract contingent on getting like the approval for the community, probably similar to a deal that you did. What would want to make you work with that buyer?
Probably just showing me their ability to get it done. Do they have the knowledge and experience? And if they don't, then, because we don't always all have all the answers, but then you've got to surround, it's like I talked about having a good engineer. You got to surround yourself with good people to help get you through the process. So do you have a team, an engineer, attorney, or whatever that can help you get through the process as quickly as possible? This is important.
Yeah, that engineer is worth their weight in gold. Like
Oh,
that's a huge part. Like a lot of people don't think they realize they look at land development as something really, really scary with so many moving parts. Probably like how I look at a car engine when the hood comes up. I'm just like,
yeah.
I have no, I mean, it looks like I'm like, there's the flux capacitor, there's where that goes. I have no clue what I'm looking at. My dad, dude, he's
Yeah.
rebuilt freaking engines and he does it for fun. I'm like, you're nuts. So like what would you do differently, today?
Differently it's it's all so difficult to say because kind of, I mean, on a bad note, what happened to me was and hopefully all you guys are too young to have been a part of this, but the biggest tragedy that ever happened in my business career was the crash in 2008. And it's really hard for people to comprehend how bad it really was. I mean, if you hear about the depression back in what was it, the 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. I mean, I know a lot of really, really wealthy people, land, real estate developers, builders that basically went under during that time because everything just stopped. I mean, you could, you might expect things to go like this and maybe like this and like, I mean, it went like this. I mean, everything stopped. Everything. There was nobody doing anything. I mean, I was probably doing more than anybody just on the hope and chance and thought that it was going to recover like really quick, but it took it a long time. Now it was faster here in Middleton, in Nashville, than most places because it was Nashville, but it was still, and so preparing for that. How do you prepare for that? How do and it was so. It really, some people try to say, well, this happened. You should have known this, should have known that. Well, I know a lot of really smart people with a lot of really smart people around them that lost everything. I mean, I know three guys that were billionaires and developing and building and owned hunting farms all over the United States, and they just they lost. They had three jets and all kinds of stuff, and they lost almost everything. Now they've been able to build it back up, but when you talk about mistakes, I mean, really, mean, normally you should be able to buy property if you can get access to the money. Really, developing and real estate all comes down to your ability to get access to funds. If you can get access to funds, then you should be able to, do fairly well in the, development, building, real estate world. And because it's always going to go up in value.
And so hindsight's 2020. What are you looking for now that would be the telltale signs that, okay, I need to scale down or sell or get out because we have another, '08 potential event happening? Like what are the signs of that everybody here can look?
Oh man, you're asking me to tread in some dangerous shark infested waters here, Brandon.
I know you're built for it.
You know, well, I don't want to piss off a bunch of people I don't even know, but I mean, it is what it is, man. It's just a lot of it comes down to who's running the administration in the country, and they can single-handedly destroy the economy, and I've seen it happen, 2 or 3 times in my lifetime. And if I name off the people it happened under, you're going to see a consistency there that you may not like, but it really is. I mean, it's just the mindset starts at the top and it trickles down to the bottom, and you got to have somebody who has some good uh, experience, or have good people around them that know what kind of things affect our economy. And I'm very conservative when it comes to my beliefs and thoughts and how things should be run. And it's a big problem in our country because politicians don't know anything about how to run an economy, and it takes a business person to know and understand how the economy worldwide works, because what we do here in the United States affects people worldwide. And what other people do, like China, especially China, affects us. And so knowing how to navigate through that just is a lot to it. And just not everybody knows how to handle that.
Yeah, I know that certain rules, laws, and regulations can lead to some of that stuff, but like, what were you seeing in the market specifically, looking back, that were like, market specific stuff that's like, okay, this thing's overheated, and if you were to see those same things today, would tell you, hey, it's time to scale back or take
Possibly,
less risk.
possibly looking back, not knowing at the time, but seeing it happen, is people were getting basically 100% financing, and they were actually even being allowed to add in their closing cost as long as the appraisal covered it, you could add in your closing cost into the closing, and they were getting 100% financing. So, it sounds all awesome and it should work for people, but there were people getting loans on houses that actually couldn't afford what they were buying, and they by the thousands. And so that had to come to a stop somewhere. Now I think that it was over dramatized, and I think that the media over dramatized it and basically catapulted the nation into a recession, just striking fear into people. Whereas if they hadn't have said anything and just handled the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac issue internally and took care of that in some way, and not just, they made it sound like the sky was falling and everybody just stopped. Stock market plummeted. People stopped building, stopped developing. And now the one thing that did happen, prices dropped. Uh, Banks were selling developments pennies on the dollar. I know a guy that was buying, $5, $6, $7, $8 million partially developed properties for $300,000 to $900,000. And and so when it came back, and he told me, he said, I'm buying up everything on the Panhandle, down on the beach in Destin and Panama City and Orange Beach and all that. And he said, when it comes back, I'm going to be the only game in town. He said, I'm going to be a multi-billionaire within 15 years, and he is, he did it.
Yeah, everything 30x from there.
Yeah.